the management of Mahindra and Mahindra, and it would be important to take in the key takeaways from their recent analyst meet, what their business plans are for potential billion-dollar businesses. They plan to ride the EV tide. How is it that they're planning to approach all of this? Let's welcome on board Mr. V.S. Parthasarathy, the Group CFO and Group CIO at Mahindra and Mahindra. He joins us on the show right now. Mr. Parthasarathy, morning. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear, madam, and very good morning to you all.
Okay, thanks. I saw you fiddling with your earpiece, so I was just wondering whether you can hear me clearly or not. Mr. Parthasarathy, the early projections hint at a below normal monsoon right now. How is it that you're reading into this as far as the tractor volumes are concerned? And do you think after the strong recovery that we've seen in the tractor volumes in the last 2 quarters, that trend could continue? Or do you think monsoon is going to again play a very big factor and could challenge those growth numbers?
Okay. Before I come to monsoon, just a quick backdrop. I think what was, 2 or 3 quarters back, green shoots in the rural in terms of firm rural demand. I think the rural demand is now seems very firm, and there is a real recovery in process, sustained recovery, and it seems that to stay. And further add on is the fact that the MSP in a sense is being based to cost, and if that means that the farmers can look at recovery much more, lots of good positive notes to augur. So that also is a supporter for demand, continued demand. Then you were talking about monsoon, so let me come to that. We have had 2 years of good monsoon now, and that itself augurs well for the coming year, because we are not coming in with anything negative. A little bit of hot summer right now augurs well for a good monsoon is what I've heard from from the IMD and sources. So I think that is also positive. But even in the instant, let's say 90% plus rain only happens and doesn't happen to be 100%, I think it should still be very good year from an overall industry as well as rural point of view.
Okay, let's talk about the commercial vehicle business, since it seems that you're pretty sorted when it comes to the tractor segment growth. When it comes to CVs, which started as a joint venture with Navistar, yet to turn profitable, volumes for LCVs have been quite encouraging. I want to get an update on that. And what's the update on the MHCV business as well? By when can we see it break even finally?
Okay. So first of all, let me talk about HCV, which you ended with. We are the fastest growing HCV brand in the current year. We grew at 54% YTD, and that augurs very well, and we have grown not in line, but much faster than the market growth has been. And top of that, like you said, LCV has been good. Looking forward, we not only can continue on the good performance, but also have the range completed through a launch of ICV and MHCV kind of, whatever gap we had in that. And that should also make our range very complete. Next year we are really looking forward, and if all of them come together, clearly the MHCV unit in the analyst meet said that they are very positive about an EBITDA break even next year, and then on we go to create much more value. So we turn the corner very much on the growth path in HCV and MHCV and LCV.
Mr. Parthasarathy, good morning. Nikunj Dalmia also joining in from the Mumbai studio. Whereas the LCV and the tractor sales are looking up, some would argue that the unique proposition for your passenger car business, which was making a steady SUV car, that entire business is getting challenged. There are new players, there are old players which are now eyeing market share of the SUV market, and some would argue that your monopoly status which you had, let's say 8-10 years ago, that is getting challenged.
Nikunj, very rightly put. that we had monopoly. Okay, and competition comes in, which is good for the market, the whole size increases, and so it has in this particular case. But if you look at four of our products, whether it is Scorpio or Bolero or XUV, all of them enjoy what you call as evergreen products, and some of them have, one of them has even double century in terms of number of years. It's been 20 years which has been in the scene. So we've got evergreen product, which are the iconic SUV UV products that are available in the market. Coming on, the market size has very much increased due to competition, which is good news, and we continue to see traction in that area. What further has happened is that we are looking forward to launching 4 new products next year, which should bolster our things, and some of them are in areas where we are not present at this point of time. So we are looking forward to a good kind of rebound. And last but not least, SUV, our traditional strength, which is the rural market, was a little bit under stress in the last couple of years. As you said, the last couple of quarters have seen an upswing, and now seems to be a very strong rural demand. So a strong rural demand, good product launches in the anvil, and overall anyway the growth is, even in the last 2 quarters which you've seen, augurs well.
Okay, I think we've lost him there. Yes, we've lost him there. Hopefully we'll get that connection back with Mr. Parthasarathy once again. But I think he's making an interesting point, and he's admitting that, look, there is a market share, or new entrants are there in the SUV market, but the SUV market again is this high growth market, and suddenly the Indian commuter has got aspirations to be and to have an SUV. So the SUV ownership patterns in India have changed, and that explains that why a player like Maruti now has aggressively taken bets, and they've come out with new launches in this market per se. But the tone which we got from the CFO of Mahindra & Mahindra so far is that the market is looking higher, and the rural economy, which is the mainstay for Mahindra & Mahindra, bulk of the profit really comes from this entire rural classification, not the urban classification. That seems to be coming back. Kunal, how is M&M looking on the charts?
I think it's looking extremely good, Nikunj. One of the fewer auto names which has not buckled under this volatility in terms of pressure, market pressure as well. And any signs of rise or stability in the markets, you see the stock behaving with a positive price action. Today also I think the stock is up 1.5% and showing some very good volume patterns over the last few days, weeks as well. So I believe that this could be one of the few names. So it's just that when the market volatility stabilizes, you see all these stocks which are showing some strong patterns. I think they could continue to rise further. M&M I'm extremely bullish on. I think you could look at even a 780 to 800 kind of a target in the near term.
Mr. Parthasarathy, a question which has always in a sense intrigued me is that if I look at the current valuations of Mahindra & Mahindra, it is still getting a holding company discount. And what is the plan in place really to unlock that? Because the challenge with such an ownership structure is that the shareholders will never get their dues. The promoters will never be able to unlock the true value. So consciously and internally, are you working on something where you would be able to unlock the value and the cross holdings of Mahindra & Mahindra?
Okay, so it's an interesting question, and we get asked this asked often. So first and foremost is that it is what I am hoping and what I am starting to see is that we will get a premium for being a federation rather than a discount. But just to come out, the last couple of years has been very dull for the manufacturing sector overall. So if the overall multiples are a little bit subdued for M&M, I wouldn't worry. I would treat it as something that I can look forward and my shareholders can look forward in terms of jump in market price as the growth starts to come back into the manufacturing, as we've seen in the last couple of quarters and going forward. As far as the holding company is concerned, we have always been, now ever since this company was formed, M&M, been an operating company on one side and an investing company on the other side. And to my mind, we've been there 70 years plus, giving an IRR or a return of upwards of 20% to the market, and I'm sure the market has seen that and rewarded us in terms of share price increase and will continue to do so. So sometimes people tell me, don't fix what ain't broke, and that's a good advice.
But sir, times are changing, and the way globally companies are now really focusing on one monoline of business. I understand that Mahindra and Mahindra is more like an investment company which has incubated several businesses, the IT business, the lifestyle business, again your NBFC business. But if I really look at focusing on one single entity, according to me, Mahindra and Mahindra is still trading at a discount considering the kind of value proposition and the subsidiary wealth they are sitting on.
Yeah, Nikunj, I said I agreed with you that, and I see that as a cup half full, and the potential can be unlocked in the future. So I'm saying my shareholders and my investors have a long to look forward to, and therefore in a sense if you say the share is a little undervalued, therefore I would agree and say yep, there is huge upside potential, and that's what I would look forward to. And the second part of your point is that times are changing, and I think we always should take input from whatever change way of management, and I would expect Mahindra and such companies to be the new norm in the in times when it goes forward and says that how a federation can create immense value.
Mr. Parthasarathy, you just gave us our headlines. Thanks for donning a stock market analyst hat, that you feel that there is further upside to the stock price. I'm very tempted to ask you what you think is the fair value, considering you think that stock is undervalued, but we'll leave that for some other day. Tell me about what's happening on electric vehicles, because we've earlier talked about how you have the first mover advantage from a sale of 1,000 units in 2017. What's the kind of figure that you're looking at by, say, the end of 2020? And EV is this mysterious fad that just about everyone's talking about, but no one knows how this is exactly going to pan out. So tell us, what's the strategy to expand the EV business? Because it seems like that's, EVs is the way forward for all vehicles eventually, and it's going to be goodbye to fossil fuels.
So first and foremost is that you're right, EV has a very bright future, and there has been various figures that have been talked about, right up from 100% of all vehicles sold in 2030 will be electric vehicle. I don't just subscribe to that. I think it will be much more slower in terms of trajectory, but whether it is 30% or whether it's 50%, whatever be the number, it's a very big number. And we have the advantage of having EVs on road, and that gives a lot of kilometers of data which comes in, and therefore we understand customer preference and what happens when technology meets the road. And I think we have had a lot of these input, and that gives not just first mover advantage, a huge amount of data in an era where data will be a differentiator. And on top of that, we have a few vehicles on the road, and more are coming up. So in 2020, I wouldn't be surprised if any vehicle that we have, we can offer a electric vehicle of the same kind of, whether it's UV, whether it is a passenger car, whether it's a three-wheeler. I think we can offer all kinds of automobile mobility devices on electric vehicle. And you asked about what kind of volume. We thought we would put a manufacturing capacity in Chakan, which would kind of produce about 5,000 a month. And I'm kind of thinking that today it seems a good start, but when we come to that time, we may find that we may have to increase that quantity, and that will be both a hope and a wish.
Could you give me specific timelines on the launches and exact time periods of launches that you're working with when it comes to EVs specifically?
Yeah, so we will launch a series of EV products that I can say today, but I will leave to my counterparts in the art to talk about product launches at the appropriate time, because as a CFO, and as a competitive information, confidential information, it's better to do this slowly, but I can tell you that there will be a series of products which will come out over a period of time, and by 2020 I think we will have a new set of products on the road with an EV base.
Is it going to be the fleet segment that will be your main area of focus given the government incentives, or would you look at a premium segment as well? Because when one talks about EVs, everyone thinks Tesla in their heads.
Okay, so one of the things that we do is that today there is two segments which are clearly in focus, and they are the ones which are buying today, and probably the use cases are more in that segment. One is the government which is buying, and the second one is the fleet segment or the B2B, which is more buying this, and then they are putting it to good use in terms of city commutation. And whether in Nasik, whether in other places, Uber, Ola, they've been the first of the block. But over a period of time, I think consumers will also stay. So our focus will be to address both these segments and to address the retail segment. So we will have products for both segments is what I would say. But currently the bigger volumes will come from fleet owners and government.
This is not about Mahindra and Mahindra per se. This is about all group companies. What stock markets always focus on, sir, is the fact that you should buy a business which could be at an inflection point in terms of profit, market share gain, sales, or any disruptive technology or launch. So under the umbrella of Mahindra and Mahindra, out of all the listed companies which are there, and there are nearly half a dozen companies, which 2 or 3 companies to your mind are at a genuine inflection point, both in terms of sales, growth, and margin expansion? Your group companies are doing well. I mean, I track all of them with a magnifying glass. So, I'm not complaining about any business slowing down. But within the group businesses you have, where do you think there is going to be high growth, strong margin expansion, and a surge in profitability in next 2-3 years?
Yeah. So, we are coming, as far as India is concerned, and as far as Sensex companies or big companies are coming, of a flat 2 to 3 years, and now the inflection point is coming. So I would tend to argue that all these companies which are listed have a huge amount of potential to go forward, and I would be amiss in terms of saying this is more possible to grow faster. Let's take for example Mahindra Finance. They can really see a huge amount of growth. Our Tech Mahindra, where the potential to grow is immense. So I would say all the listed companies are the baby entrant into the listed company stock, which is logistics. I tend to think all of them has huge potential for growth. But when you talked about value creating, which is what we are focusing, is that the value creation opportunity starts when it is not listed. And therefore, we did showcase to investors within auto and farm $3 billion businesses which are upcoming. I mean, it's not $1 billion business today, but which has the potential in medium term to hit about $1 billion. And therefore, they could be the value creators, say, for auto and farm in the next 3 years.
All right, sir. Appreciate your time. Mr. Parthasarathy, always delight to have you back on ET Now, and thank you for thank you for your frank chat and outlining what is the way forward for your various group companies.